morning, afternoon, I don't know what time it is, but today I'm gonna make something wonderful with some of our vegan flax bread, which we showed you how to make a few weeks ago, and that you can make at home with our Mi&Stu flax bread mix. I am Mi of Mi&Stu Foods in Montreal, gluten-free, dairy-free, nut-free food facility. We make all kinds of allergen-free, delicious foods, and today we're gonna make two kinds of French toast with our vegan flax bread. So we're gonna make a French toast bake, which is actually going to sit overnight in the fridge, and I'm gonna bake it tomorrow morning and show you what that looks like tomorrow morning. But I'm also gonna make a vegan French toast, since this is a vegan bread, and if you're vegan or you have vegan friends who are allowed to come over now and maybe sit 10 feet away from you, or you have vegan family members, or you just wanna try something different, I'm gonna show you how to make a vegan French toast that I actually found from the Minimalist Baker. I don't know if you're familiar with those books, but wonderful recipes from the Minimalist Baker. Hard to say, easy to make. I'm gonna show you how to do that. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slice the bread, because I made this bread yesterday. I don't have a bread slicer in my house like I do at the bakery, but also for French toast I like to make the slices a little bit thicker. So just gonna do a little slicing and dicing. No dicing, just slicing. When we first started Mi&Stu, and we made, I think the first bread that we ever made was a buckwheat bread, which we still make, and it's really ridiculously delicious. Stephanie used to slice all of the breads that we sold by hand. So if we sold 100 breads, she would stand and slice them all like this, with a different knife though. She has a ceramic knife, which scares me a little, but it works really well. Anyways, I'm just saying this because when we first started, we didn't really have everything we have now, and we really kind of roughed it, you know? Anyways, but it was fun, and we enjoyed it, and clearly we enjoyed it enough to stick with it, because we're still going, and now we have a bread slicer, which is not a human being with a knife anymore. It's actually one of those machines that goes like that. You have to keep your hands away from it. But fun. And you can really do this with any bread, but this is a great bread for it. So if you made this bread or you bought it from us, great recipe. The vegan French toast recipe is really, really easy. So in whatever container you're gonna dip your bread into, you can pour all of your ingredients, and there are not a lot of ingredients. So there's a tablespoon of chia. I'm gonna post this recipe on our website, so you don't have to write it down. Yeah, it's gonna be in the blog section. That's where we decided we're gonna put all the recipes in the blog section. Okay, so then there's a cup of milk, any kind of milk that you like. You can use a nut milk, you can use rice milk, you can use soy milk, you can use cow's milk. You can use whatever you like. This is maple syrup. It's just a tiny little amount of maple syrup, which is, I think it's like a teaspoon of maple syrup. So I'm not gonna lie, what I did with this is my favorite kitchen instrument, this tiny, tiny little measuring cup, because it has all kinds of different measures, and it's great for anything liquid. But whenever I have maple syrup in a thing like this or anything, I will oil it first a little bit so that my maple syrup comes out and it doesn't get stuck in my cup, and then I'm left with half of the maple syrup that I really wanted to use. Half a teaspoon of cinnamon. So I'm going to add half a teaspoon of vanilla. Now that I'm finished with it for the maple syrup, I can use that. And there we go. And that's it. That's the whole recipe. So there was whatever kind of milk you like, some chia seeds, some vanilla, maple syrup. It says in the recipe that you can also use agave if you like, but I'm a huge maple syrup fan. I will put it on anything. So literally anything. So I use that, and then cinnamon, then you mix it all together. It would probably do better if I used a whisk, but I didn't think about that ahead of time. So here we go with the whisk. So you just whisk it together, And then you put it in the fridge for like 10 minutes, just so that the chia kind of gets activated into like not really eggy, but a little bit eggy, kind of like the way that you would use a flax thing. Egg? Flax egg. I don't mean things, I mean egg. Okay, I'm gonna throw this into the fridge. Hopefully I'm not gonna knock into the camera. That's the first thing that we're gonna do. Now we're gonna switch to the other French toast recipe, do some of the prep there, and then when the vegan mixture is ready to go, we're gonna move over to the cooktop. I'm actually gonna make the French toast with that while I make the rest of the non-vegan French toast. Is this confusing? I hope I do this right. And by the end of the show today, this episode, you'll know how to make the vegan French toast. You'll know how to make the, what we call French toast crème brûlée recipe. And you'll have stuff to do with your vegan flax bread from Mi&Stu, or any other bread that you choose to make it with. But it is really quite delicious with this, especially if you're vegan. So, my French toast crème brûlée recipe. Super easy. We're gonna take 5 eggs and we're gonna break them into a large bowl or measuring cup. I like the measuring cup because it has a spout, and in the end we are gonna end up pouring this, so why not? It's just easier. Okay. I'm gonna add to that 1.5 cups of milk. Again, any kind of milk that you like will work. I've made it with rice milk. I've made it with soy milk. I've eaten it made with regular milk. I've eaten it made with almond milk, cashew milk, anything. Totally great, always good. This one has a slight amount of vanilla in it as well. And then I'm gonna just use this mixer to mush it all together. You can beat it with your hand. You can do it with a whisk. Any way that you can get it so it's well mixed together. I'm gonna stop talking for a second because this thing is gonna make noise. That's all. Okay. I think we're going to move over there now. Okay, so we've changed locations. And now we're gonna work a little bit at the stove. This is for the French toast crème brûlée because I'm waiting for the vegan stuff to kind of coagulate in the fridge. So you're gonna put in 1/2 cup of butter or margarine, or I wouldn't suggest a shortening. I like a vegan margarine for this. You're gonna melt together 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. You can actually use corn syrup, but I would never tell you to do that because I'm not a big believer in corn syrup. But if you like corn syrup, no judgment, use corn syrup. And a cup of brown sugar. So what we're doing here is we're just gonna melt it all together so that it is a nice liquidy kind of thing. We're gonna pour it into the bottom of a Pyrex, any kind of a baking dish, ceramic baking dish. I've never made it in a metal one. I've always either made it in glass or ceramic, but I imagine if you only have a metal one, you're gonna be okay. So we're bringing it together so that it's gonna be a good, nice, thorough consistency. The brown sugar kind of melts into the margarine with the little bit of maple syrup. It's gonna give it a lovely taste. You don't need to add maple syrup when you eat it if you make it with maple syrup. I don't really think you will ever need to add anything to this because it's going to be sweet enough. But some people love super sweet and will put chocolate on top of it, which I fully understand. It's really nice with cut up fruit and berries, bananas. You can sprinkle cinnamon over it before you eat it. You can also put a little bit of icing sugar on it. But we've always just eaten it right out of the pan, and generally it doesn't last. It's the kind of thing that I make it for usually a special occasion and it's gone. And there's no leftovers, and that's life. So, okay, so if you want to see what this looks like now, I'm gonna take a little close up for you. See that it has like a few little bubbles at the edge. That's perfect, it's ready to go. What we do with it now is pour it into the pan. It's gonna coat the whole bottom of the pan. I'm gonna move the pan over so you can see. 1 second. And then The one important part about this that I sort of forgot was that for the French toast creme brulee, it's best if you cut off the crusts of the pieces so that you don't, I mean, it's not really gonna make a huge difference, but the texture is gonna just be more, what's the word? I guess homogeneous would be the word, like homogeneous, maybe that's how you say it, homogeneous. You wanna fit the pieces into your pan so that the whole surface is covered with bread. That way you get the most amount of French toast that you can. So you take your bread with the crusts cut off. Before I do the cooking part, I will lay out my bread in the pan to make sure that I like the way that it fits. Oh, I need more bread. You can just listen to me talk now for a second. I like to fit in the pieces so that they cover the whole surface, like I said. And so sometimes you have like little odds and end pieces that you're gonna stick in to the little areas where you have a hole. Still going. Okay, so now the pan is full of like covered in bread. The whole layer is covered in bread. And then I'm gonna take my mixture that we did earlier and I'm just gonna pour it over. And pretty much that's the recipe. So what you do is you cover this now with saran, or if your pan has a cover, and you put it into the fridge for like at least 12 hours, if not longer. And tomorrow morning, we're gonna take it out. We're gonna let it come to room temperature and we're gonna bake it at 350 for, if I remember correctly, 35 minutes, and then it's yummy time. But that's for tomorrow. Now we're gonna go on and finish the vegan French toast recipe. Okay, so I have all my bread here, and I have all of the ends that I cut off for the other recipe that I'm gonna end up cutting into pieces and making croutons for, so that season them with something delightful and then put them in the oven for a few minutes, make them crunchy, and then eat them on my salad. All right, I forgot my fork. Okay, so this is what my mixture is that was sitting in the fridge. I'm not gonna put it here because this is still a bit hot. Okay, and then basically it's like making French toast, where you're gonna dip your bread in the mixture, same way that you make a traditional French toast, and you kind of make sure that it gets really well saturated with your mixture. You can poke holes in the bread with a fork if you like. So this is a non-stick pan. I actually sprayed it a little bit. Not my favorite thing to do, but also not my favorite thing for it to burn, especially when I'm making a video. I think we're good to go. Just, you know, I'm gonna just get another piece going while we're waiting. I always find with French toast, the longer it sits in the mixture, the better it is, which is why that 24-hour sitting in the fridge thing really always works out so well. You could let this stuff sit also. I would think that it's gonna be hard to handle if it sits for too long. It might fall apart. There we go. I'm not going to turn my fan on because I think it's going to make too much noise, but I would suggest using your fan, especially if you're using a gas cooktop. Oh my god, it smells so good. It smells like vanilla and cinnamon. It really smells very, very good. I feel that this is perhaps what we're going to have for lunch today, and then the other client for lunch tomorrow. In the minimalist baker recipe, it says it makes 5 pieces of bread, this recipe, but I guess it depends on how big your bread is. I guess my slices are a little bit smaller, so I'm getting more than 5 pieces, which is great because that will be less people fighting over them if we can share it. So I think that this is going to take a little while to cook, longer than it does maybe when you make French toast with eggs. And I'm going to be honest with you, I've never made this before. It's my first time. So it may not come out so good, but it may come out great, because sometimes the first time you make something, it comes out the best, and then you try to recreate it and you're like, what? Is this? No. But we'll see. Today might be that day where you go, oh, I'm making this again. Yeah. Very fluffy. Does smell very, very good. gonna be great. My tag is sticking out. I'm gonna fix that. There we go. My Mi&Stu top. Okay, I think we're getting there. Ooh, this is nice looking French toast. Whoa, yeah. Very nice. Can you see what this looks like? I don't know if you can see. Ha ha. Yeah. I got more bread to make and stuff. So this is what it looks like when the vegan French toast is finished from the Minimalist Baker's recipe. It looks delicious. We're serving ours with a little bit of maple syrup and some berries. It smells great. I think this is a successful recipe, so I'm excited by it, and I'm sure people have made it before, but this is my first time, so yay me. And I'll catch you back here tomorrow morning when it's time to bake the French toast creme brulee, and we'll check that out too. Bon appetit. See you later.
The next morning.
This is what it looks like when you take it out of the fridge. Let it sit for 25 to 30 minutes at room temperature, and then it's gonna go into the oven. So if you see your bread floating like that, it's totally fine. Alrighty, here we go. We're putting it in the oven. It bakes for like 35 to 40 minutes. And we're good to go. That's it. I'll show you what it looks like when it comes out. It's gonna be gorgeous. See you in a bit. That would be nice. All right, are you ready to be wowed? Wow! Okay. Wow. So we're gonna let this cool because you're not supposed to eat it hot. It's best to come back to like a warm, a little bit above room temperature. Delicious, just like this. Delicious with berries on top. I don't think you have to add any sweetness to it because there's already all that maple syrup at the bottom and the brown sugar. So I say happy brunch to you.